The challenges we face are often catalysts for discovering a deeper sense of purpose. Today's guest turned her journey around from healing autoimmune imbalances and rheumatoid arthritis and turned that into profound growth experience, reshaping her understanding of health, mindset, and connection. As an author, course creator, and wellness advocate, she developed a holistic framework to help others improve their well-being by addressing both internal and external factors. This is the story of 12 Layers of Healing with Kristen Renee. Kristen, so nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
We've been kind of following each other on the Instagram world of digital, and I've kind of seen your journey and was always a little bit enthralled. And I find everyone's healing journey to be so important to tell, right? It's its own story. And I never think it serves as follow in my footsteps to get better, but I think it serves as listen, learn, and you'll find your own path forward. So I always like to start like, where did your story start? And can you give us, how you came about into this world of holistic healing through your own trials and tribulations?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I had no idea this would be my path, but it all kind of makes sense now in hindsight. So my story, I was an avid runner, athlete, living in Marin, and it was a typical Saturday double workout day, training for the latest half marathon, and suddenly, now I realize not so out of the blue, but at the time, very out of the blue, my knee swelled up and my ankle, both on the right side of my body. Huge. And, tried the ice pack, just thought, oh, elevate ice, etc. will help. And I just quickly realized I needed to get it checked out. So within two doctor's visits, one, I went to a surgeon's office and did x-rays and scans, and they sent me down to rheumatology. And I learned when you get sent down to rheumatology, it's like a sentence you don't want to receive. You kind of hope you had that tear and needed a repair.
Yeah.
Because you just kind of get the looks like, sorry, you now have a life, sentence that you have to work through. So that's the feeling. And I had a wonderful doctor, like absolutely fantastic. And it kind of felt like through a series of tests and questions, almost a process of elimination, we got to the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic arthritis. It was kind of within that group, just RA in general. But I just kind of noticed, like, how can we pinpoint that just with these questions and a few tests? Like, it just always, that something in my, gut was like, that's interesting. And they prescribed medication. And in the beginning, I really said, what else can we do? So we tried to just drain my knee, shoot it with cortisol. I tried everything to not get on medication. And finally, my family intervened and said, you have no quality of life. You are not, you can barely even walk, you're on crutches. It got that bad. I got my dog that I have now, and I could only bike with him to take him out. I couldn't even walk my dog. So I decided to get on medication for it, and it all went down. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm not going to just be this person that, I'm not going to be a person that just stays on this medication. I'm going to be the one to heal it. What they're saying, I just don't accept. I have a rebellious spirit, and I'm like, no, I'll heal this, no problem. So I worked with my rheumatologist and learned about, on the side, on my own, nutrition, went to naturopaths, did all the protocols and tests to start working on my gut is what I learned. So everything was very gut focused. And then worked with my rheumatologist on a schedule to wean me off the medication and see if all my work behind the scenes had helped. And it would help, but it would come back. It started to get farther and farther along, like maybe every few months it would return, or every 6 months. Eventually it became like once a year, usually around stressful times with work. I noticed. So it was just every time it comes back, it's just completely disheartening. I would just completely break down. You're at the point of just giving up because what is happening in my body, right? So around that time, years into this, I decided I needed to make some drastic changes. I was in the Bay Area work, I kept a very busy, stress-filled, rushing lifestyle. When I was healthy, I would run. I never could stop and meditate. I thought that was a waste of time. I was only focused on kind of my exterior, keeping up with everyone, being a great employee, friend, everything. And it was a lot. And so I decided to reduce one of my stresses and sell my house and moved. And that's when I really dove into my healing. I had more money to focus on it, hired more experts, took the time, I had less distractions, and really went headfirst into healing. I still kept a busy, stress-filled job, but I learned a lot more and got much closer. And kind of during that time, I noticed some things were happening. Like when I moved states, at that time I had eye inflammation, and I was back in California seeing an ophthalmologist weekly. I had medication, it was iritis. Basically, the whole right side of my body was kind of going haywire. And when I was moving, kind of the last thing I was thinking about while I was driving to a new state was, oh my gosh, how am I going to find a new ophthalmologist? I'm so fearful. And she worked with my fears. And I just decided during the drive, like, no, I can't handle that on top of everything else. I'm just not going to have this eye problem anymore. And I never did after that. So whether it's I didn't want to see something back in the last state, or I just willed it and decided, it worked. And I hadn't even heard of that really, but I realized later, like, oh, wait, I never had that eye issue again. So that was like a big eye opener for me. I also went to an intuitive masseuse while I was really sick. And so I had stuck arm, stuck knee, and she talked about what the body is trying to communicate, what the elbow might mean, what was happening at the time of my life when it started, that your knee can mean support. So what does that mean? So it helped me also think about, oh, maybe my body's communicating. So I just continued down that path of just learning and trying everything. And eventually, all the while I was facing trauma during this time. I had some childhood trauma I hadn't healed. I was starting to notice that I was really living fear-based. I had a weekly coach at this point, kind of working through a lot of this stuff, and I was facing it head on. And around this time, I had my second stress-induced panic attack while I was on a phone call with my boss at the time. And the next morning, I decided to quit my job. And that's kind of when everything opened up. And my elbow, so I had been waking up stuck. It was fine the next day. So once I quit, I moved to Lake Tahoe. Now we had the eye, the elbow healed, and I was healing my knee too. So from kind of making all these shifts and understanding, for me, it was the mind-body connection. It was being more attached, connected to my body, learning to love myself, create self-worth, step into, making these changes that are telling my body I'm important. With every single one, I was learning to heal myself. So that was all the like huge aha moments where, you can't just focusing on the gut helped, but it didn't heal it. So I had a lot of stuck emotions I had to face.
I
So
mean, it's a common trait. Again, this is your story, no one else's, right? There's no two of the same, but it's such a common trait that we start with the physical elements and then move on. And usually because we have to, not even because, you have aha moments, but we usually, yeah, it's like gut protocol, detox. It's usually these physical things we're trying to find an answer of the body, not of the mind, not
yeah,
of the spiritual elements.
totally.
And it's only through aha or serendipitous kind of things that you realize, wait a second, maybe this is a little further. Yes, that's important. You have to be in shape, take care of your gut, but so many initiating factors start in the mind. starts
Yeah.
in the belief systems, in traumas that we keep and attach in our subconscious, right? And I know you talk about these elements of healing, and so many are beyond. I know there's the water and food you have to have that's healthy and clean, but there's so much more. And I love that idea of your words and thoughts matter.
Yeah, that's one of my
You know,
favorite
we have
ones.
so
Yeah.
many of these thoughts that we persistently display and that our cells are listening to. Where was it in your healing transformation that you started to really pick up on maybe these things I'm telling myself or my thoughts are truly impacting me? And that's actually a really powerful notion if it's true.
Well, I will say the first time I realized it, I was working with an intuitive, so I'm
Mm,
spiritual too, or I was dabbling, I guess I should say at the time. And she told me, she said, "Do you hear what you're saying?" I kept saying the body and my inflammation. And she said, "You're giving ownership to this inflammation and not ownership to your own body." Like it was just a subconscious way of talking. I was so used to being so disconnected. So that was kind of the first time. And when I was doing all this shadow work with the coach, that also was a big one for me to see these limiting beliefs that I truly had lived by my entire life. Um, I don't just think it's, I had some childhood trauma, like I said, and there was some verbal. So I do think that's part of it. But maybe this is just part of my journey here was to heal these deep-seated limiting beliefs and um, create self-love, know that I'm powerful, know that I'm important to what I say in meetings matter. And, that's been a big journey because I was definitely had previously lived by, being as small as possible, as quiet as
mm,
possible, not making waves. A friend even pointed out who's a physical therapist that when I was sick, even my gait was very small. Everything was tucked
mm,
in. I was living very small. So it's been a journey of just having that confidence and self-love and taking up space in this world and telling myself that I matter. So affirmations have really helped me because I think it's just helping reprogram maybe things that I've heard or believed, but it's been huge for me. So yeah, I fully believe words and thoughts, one of my pillars, like so incredibly important. I agree.
And isn't it funny how our physical actions or attributes are really a representation? Me, myself, I could talk about this. I've never been quite flexible, like literally can't touch my toes and have worked on, but I realized I was pretty rigid in a lot of the ways I go about things too. I'm not flexible in life, and that's not a
Yeah,
good thing. And I've been working on and finding that I am more loose, right? I'm not so uptight and everything. It's like,
yeah,
yes, when you have, even when you look at pains in certain areas, they're representations of something about you. And
yeah,
so it's kind of cool when you start to look at things through that lens, not just like, oh, genetics, I'm inflexible and that's life, but literally, how can I prove based off what my body is telling me through my mind and through everything?
yeah,
So, I mean,
absolutely.
you found that in the gait. Do you find yourself now walking differently, presenting differently as you've kind of
Yeah,
evolved?
I think it's holding my head higher,
Mm,
slowing down my gait. I've really learned because it was my right side of the body, so that's your masculine side, right? So part of the healing journey also has been incorporating or reincorporating the feminine too. So slowing down, trusting, allowing, receiving. Um, so I'm much more aware of my gait too, and aware just in general that I matter and maintaining the balance of your masculine and feminine. I believe, so much about healing is creating balance. So that's really helped too. So yeah, when I find myself, even if I'm hurrying, walking, I'm like, why am I doing that? Let me just walk,
yeah,
slower and calmer too. So it's kind of a daily thing still, to remind myself, but I definitely think it's changed for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And I wouldn't be talking to you if I was still in that scared, fearful mindset and being small and not
yeah.
I'd value. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and you see this a lot with people, like, even with low self-esteem and everything, a lot of times it's hunched over, poor posture, you could say, how they present themselves head up, right? And
Yeah.
just changing that and shifting your appearance, putting your shoulders back, head up, that signals, just like sometimes they say, just smile. If you're having a bad day, move these muscles into a smile, and that reacts into the neurotransmitters that'll release things as if you're happy, right? And that's a good thing, and you'll change your whole mood around. So it works both ways. You could kind of use your body to trick your mind in a sense, but of course, from your mind comes a lot into your body. And one of
Yeah.
the things you mentioned that I see a lot of with people that go from, doctor or specialist to specialist is they do it in a state of fear. They go into the doctor's office already fearing. And let's be honest, most of what you hear, like you said, you go into the rheumatoid kind of, portion of a hospital or to a rheumatic specialist, and there's a fearful kind of connotation of what are they going to tell me?
Yeah.
What is this diagnosis that is forever going to change me and make my life for the worse? And rightfully so, there is a lot of fear. Like, how did you handle that? And where did you actually go into it with, wait a second, I am going into this with a lot of fear, and that could be part of the problem?
I think working with this coach that I enlisted weekly when we were tackling things, it made me kind of start to connect the dots with fear-based responses I had at medical appointments. I would remember that, one doctor would tell me it was one of the more severe fear-based responses she had ever witnessed. And that's pretty big at the time to hear. So just realizing that, I started to notice my patterns of like instant worst case scenario thought processes, right? That I just started to become more aware of it and realize that's not how everyone else thinks. And then connected the dots to, oh, I'm in a survival state of
Mhm.
survival mode, fight or flight. And then it was that huge realization that, oh, I've lived this way my entire life. And it still makes me want to cry now thinking that for 40 plus years, I lived in fight or flight and fear and
Mhm.
survival. And I do think there's some from, not feeling safe as a child, but also maybe it's just, again, something I needed to heal in this life, in this journey. So, um, yeah, I think it was a lot of things, but just really connecting the dots to make that realization that I lived this way and other people didn't. And I didn't want to live that way anymore, frankly. And I realized the fear was impacting my health and I needed to fix it, turn it around.
You say other people did it. I have to say, a lot of people do. A lot
Okay.
of people live that way, right? Don't think that.
Yeah.
I just had Dr. Kelly Brogan on the other day, and we were getting into this of like how many people have a not balanced central nervous system because they are in
Right.
a constant state of fight or flight. And she's like, it's the biggest problem I have noticed with everyone.
Got it.
That they're always in some state. Now, how drastic it is, whether they're truly like saber-tooth tiger and back of me feeling at all times, ready to
Yeah.
pounce, is one thing. But for the most part, most of us in this modern day are completely sympathetically activated, meaning we're in that fight or flight
Yeah.
response,
Okay.
even though we don't really have that perceived notion of fear always, but the cells are in kind of this active danger mode, and they pick up on that, and you then get into the habitual state of that, and that is a way of living that just becomes a norm for many people.
Yeah.
Were you finding yourself looking for quicker solutions, or did you like go to sleeping pills or anti-anxiety or anything like that during that process, or was that intuitively not right for you?
No, and it was not right because I really wanted to heal
Mm.
it naturally. And part
Okay.
of it, when I was younger, so again, there was some childhood stuff, which I'm open about, but when I was in high school, I was on antidepressants and then on
Mhm.
and off through college because they thought, I had some sort of imbalance, but what it really was unprocessed trauma, I believe now. So
Okay.
and I wasn't really allowed to process it. And so I was just medicated. So I had done that route, got off that. No, I was really more gravitating to like, let's find that one root cause. I was just so certain there was one thing. I removed a root canal, I removed other things. Like I tackled everything. You name it. I did PRP, stem cells. Like I threw the kitchen sink at this without addressing the mind-body connection. And yeah, so I really thought it was one root thing. I'd get so close. I'm like, it was this food. Nope, it would come back. So no, I never needed to do that later in life. Yeah.
It's got to be a little bit dejected because I know people that always look for that one thing, right? And then they think they found, they hear something that suddenly sparked their interest. Someone talked about, oh, it's this, it's
Right.
mast cell activation, or it's this thing. You have this genetic mutation, you need to do this, or it's this food that you need to eat. And they get really excited because they go, oh, I found the cause, like I found my solution to what's going on. And they may even get like some response that may be a placebo or maybe truthfully that it's helping. But then
Mhm.
I learned like a month or two later, something came back. So it's like they had a little bit, but it wasn't that. Did you ever come to a point where, and I don't know, like your resolution and your journey, did you ever find that it is some one thing or is it just a bunch of things?
Good question. So I realized, so kind of when I moved to Lake Tahoe, I had just quit my job and it just all coincided beautifully. So I could move to the mountains without stress of work.
Hmm.
I ended up sleeping for 12 to 15 hours a day, kind of coming out of fight or flight. I learned to start meditating, going within, sending love to my body. I was with the pine trees, learning that they were naturally emitting DHEA, which was one of the things the
Hmm.
naturopath had recommended. So I was learning I could heal with nature. I started to write a book about my journey because I realized I had some interesting, my life was interesting. So I was kind of stepping into my purpose. So what I came to realize is when I was kind of towards the end of my book, like, okay, so what healed me? I did all these things at once. So how do I tell people what it was? I mean, it was truly like, oh no. And that's when I got the realization that like it was all these things that I did. It was, better aligning with my purpose, reducing stress, creating safety, building trust, changing my routines, my environment, my lifestyle, self-love, nature. It was all those things. So that's kind of how this elements of healing, these 12 layers were born, were truly my blueprint. And I do believe, like you said earlier, everyone's journey is unique, and I believe everyone's healing path is unique completely. So, but I just want to help people address important layers. And then within those layers, they can determine what their inner guidance is telling them within them. But, make sure you address all these layers like cleaning your house or your words and thoughts matter, getting organized. All of them I think are really important and help with overall wellness.
Yeah, I all say this because I truly believe and we embody this at our center and as a philosophy is that everyone's treatment and way of healing is very personalized. It's tailored, it's your own. You're an individual, you do that. But there are patterns, right? And that's what we're kind of looking at in your how you put it in these 12 steps is there are patterns through it. Now, the particles within that will be independent on you, and
Yeah.
hopefully you have intuition to shift in certain things of that and that's the beauty of it. It is in like an art form, but the patterns to it, I think, are always there. The patterns in nature, let's say, the Fibonacci codes of nature.
Mhm.
And that's where I see that, what you've placed in these, steps and the 12 rules are very similar to others, but you made them your own and they give you the patterns you should be looking at. And one of those I find over and over, especially for people that are chronically ill, is that you do need purpose and you need passion in your life, right? And it's very difficult if you're in a bed and you're very down and you could barely get out of bed, and you have fatigue and everything seems so bleak. It's what's the purpose then? You start to be very jaded at the world.
Yeah.
How in your depths of things were you able then to turn that around and say, here's where I found purpose and passion again, even when I was going through the healing process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I realized I didn't have purpose when I was really sick,
Mhm.
and my coach was trying to have me imagine something or envision something, and I just kept saying, I literally can't. I can't do that. I have no, it was another eye-opening experience that I have no imagination. I literally couldn't. And um, it's because I believe when I was in survival and fight or flight, you're just in your head, you're so detached, you're only trying to survive. There's no way you can try to manifest when you're in that state of mind. So I had to really get out of that before I could find my purpose. And I realized it was kind of this journey, this cataclysmic event, as they say, that catapulted me to my purpose. So I kind of learned while I was rebalancing, I'd say, what my purpose was. And that was this was all for a reason. This all happened for me. I'm here to help show other people that if I can go from as fear-based as, well, I'll just say very severely fear-based and living small and chronically ill to healthy and balanced, then, I think I can help other people too and connect the dots. So yeah, I realized throughout this my purpose was a few different things coming together, which is, I was reminded living in Tahoe that, oh yeah, I used to do this as a child when it was really tough inside. I would go outside to heal. I'd always, through high school, my friends would joke, I'd always want to be barefoot. I loved to climb trees. I was always drawn to the flowers. Uh,
Mhm.
it was just, I think they were always, I somehow knew it was healing me to be out there. I was even, I'd pick our oranges off the tree and feed them to my dogs. I was just the girl always, it just called to me. So to be back in Tahoe, realizing that the trees were helping heal me too was just kind of brought me back to my childhood. And I think purpose for many people might be kind of going back to who you authentically are, what you've always known, and maybe some elements of what you learned as an adult, but kind of bringing it all together. I always wanted to be a writer. It was always in the back of my head. So now I had this like healing journey, connection with nature, stepping into writing again. And yeah, I think purpose helps people jump out of bed in the morning and get excited to build. And I'm a big advocate, do a side hustle, anything that like gets you excited. If you just need to do it on the side while you're building, or if it's a creative pursuit, I just think it's so incredibly important to have that. And it's healing, feeling good and getting excited is part of healing.
Yeah, as exercise and movement is, beneficial to the body, I find purpose is feeding the soul, right? Like we wonder, like, what is the soul? What is the spirit? People like to attach that to religion, which I don't agree with. I think that could help cultivate a spiritual existence, and we are spiritual beings. But I've always found that if you don't have purpose, you will be lacking in kind of spiritual, strength and that soulfulness that we really, aspire to as again spiritual beings. Now, you touched on the fearful side of things, and that was a big part because you're right that you learned that the reduction of fear and return to nature are two of the biggest components to wellness. And
Biggest.
your return to nature, you went to Lake Tahoe, right? And where it's just there. Now you're in Austin again, where you could be in nature, but you're still in the city. Do you think it's healthy, or maybe I should reframe that? Do you think people need to leave cities to still connect with nature?
Oh, good question. No, I kind of, my philosophy is I want to help bring healing to your daily life, whatever your
Mm,
daily life already is. How do we incorporate healing moments throughout your day to kind of create a balance? So no, I think you can watch the sunrise or sunset. That's nature. You can find a body of water, go for a walk, step outside, breathe it in, take it in with all of your senses. So I think you can find a way to do it with your current lifestyle. If it's maybe a meeting, can be a walking meeting. Maybe you can go outside and take your shoes off to a grassy area with a coworker. Just those moments just help you heal and create balance. I added one of my pillars is a healthy morning and evening routine. So every morning, my first cup of coffee before I even have a sip, my dog knows it too. And we started this in Tahoe, I want to say, but we go outside and we watch the sunrise and I have my shoes off, so my feet are in the grass, coffee with spring water, all the healthy elements for coffee, organic coffee, of course. But we're outside. I'm listening to the birds. Birds bring feeling of safety with when the bird songs, the morning light on your eyes is healing, just being present, gratitude. I mean, I film them so other people can feel it, but for the most part, I'm there and present. So I think you can bring nature in, bring plants into your house. There's just so many ways that you can incorporate it to your current lifestyle.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think you have to incorporate nature anywhere you are. You're dealt certain cards, right? Sometimes I hear people like, "Oh, I can't leave the city." I understand that. I understand if you have to be there for work, whatever it is, and you feel a little bit bogged down, you have to find ways to go into the park and connect to ground that way, right? And
Yeah.
utilize public spaces that have more nature to then connect. But I do think it's the loss of connection in nature that is part of a journey into disease, right? Once you stop connecting, once you allow a digital world in concrete kind of, environment to be everything, that you start to lose that connection to nature. Did you ever feel that way before you moved? Because you moved to Tahoe, right? You've made these moves, and I think a change in environment could be wonderful. I will say, you kind of get stagnant in the same place. You need a change in environment to see the world, and that'll
Yeah.
change your perspective and how you feel. But did you ever feel that way where you were and when you started in the Bay Area, that it was stagnant, or that it was something that wasn't to your best healing abilities?
I think the Bay Area, I was still always a trail runner. Like I gravitated to being, I had a yard. I had, that was when I was looking for my house. I didn't care about the size of the house. I just wanted a yard. I just always knew this. And I always liked mountain biking or trail running as opposed to, road cycling, etc. So I always had a connection, but I was still too in a hurry. I was always, I was running, not walking. I was trying to get those miles logged, not looking at the tree, not slowing down, not taking it in. Um, so I wasn't as connected and as appreciative. I still liked the environment, um, but I didn't have as much of a connection and understand the healing impact as I do now. But it was something that I was always pulled to and probably didn't know why. But yeah, I truly believe the two biggest takeaways of all this is nature, which connection to nature, but also living, I think, as close to natural as you can, whether it's organic food or addressing what might be in your body. That's again, these are my views. And the other one is love over fear. I mean, I think that's just so big for healing. If I could drill down to two, the two biggest things. So um, yeah, I think you can find nature anywhere. Even just look up at the sky. Look at the
Absolutely.
color. The color is healing. That's,
Right.
it's
Yeah. Just to be outside is to be in nature, right? Just to be in fresh air and just anywhere. And you're right, looking up and then realizing you're part of this, beautiful world and on this earth that's spinning through the universe, and
yeah.
gives us this opportunity to be alive. The perfect kind of, environment for us is then an appreciation for where you are, regardless of where you are on earth. And you brought up that idea, love, trumps fear, and it's so important. I think a big part of what I see with a lot of people is a lack of self-love. It's
Hmm.
a lack of true appreciation. And sometimes it's not even that visible to people. Maybe it's subconscious through their decisions and choices. An outsider could kind of see that perhaps you have a little bit of a destructive streak because you don't have self-love. You almost punish yourself because you don't believe you're worthy of love.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people like that that may be in a state of doing the wrong things? I find that even going, when you have an option of organic and non-organic, to go to the non-organic, if you have the awareness that that's not good for you or not the best for you, is an act of, I don't love myself. I don't
Yeah.
love this body enough to give it what it truly needs, to give it the premium gas that a beautiful car would, you'd want to do that in your, fancy car. But to do that, what advice do you have for people that are just starting to get through a healing process and really, not getting to that area of self-love yet?
Yeah. I've been there. And I'd
We all
say,
have.
yeah. I mean, my first step was realizing the disconnection that I was only living in my kind of neck up and couldn't be in my
Mm,
heart. That was big. And I had to learn to practice to put my focus into my heart. It was like going to the gym. I had to practice, every day. I even had someone try to visualize with me, like go down the elevator in your body. I literally could not do it. I tried everything, but it just took practice. But also, to me, what helped was sitting with my body, so taking time for stillness, but to really just like send awareness to different parts of your body to start, okay, I'm sending awareness, go through every part, but then maybe the next step would be send love to it or see what emotion comes up, but really sending love to all individual parts of your body. Because you might feel a block. You might feel like, oh, I have some shame there. Let me sit through that. Why do I have shame in that part of my body? But you really want to build connection, send love, release the shame, and just learning to trust, learning that your body, for me, I thought my body was failing me, right, for so long. But in hindsight, my body was communicating like, you can't keep living this way. It was screaming at me, really. So learning that your body's always looking out for you, your body is amazing and perfect and healing and working in your benefit, and sending it love. Now if I like feel a pain or an injury or something just feels off, I send that part of my body even more love. Like, oh, hey, I
mhm.
see you. You're chatting with me. I now call my right knee has been, the one that had the inflammation. I just call it my knee, my chatterbox knee. It's just really communicative. It's chatting with me. So, some of those parts I send it more love. And it might sound weird, but it helps. I mean, I went from, I think, zero self-love and worth
Mm.
or very low to, I mean, it's still daily that I work on it, but I'm certainly night and day from before, from just releasing what isn't serving you and adding in more of what is.
Yeah. And that takes some introspection, right? It takes some time to do that. You can't just glance over it and just say, I'm sending you love and just keep going. Like you got to sit with yourself sometimes. I
Yeah.
find people don't do that enough. And I find it weird because I'm so in my head all the time, but I try to use it as a positive. I'm a quiet person. I'm an introvert in most cases. Like I don't like to be very boisterous and everything coming out of my mouth. I let it sit here for a little bit, but I love asking myself questions. Like I love like what worked for you today? Like where are you feeling any pain? Like why would that happen? What could that mean, right? And just going. And if you do it while you're doing a walk, even better in nature, right? Because it kind of connects you maybe to answers come and little whispers become louder as to what your questions are. Like what would benefit me the most right now? All right. You start getting little taps into your intuition.
Mhm.
Do you feel people need to do that more and get back in touch with their intuition if they're looking to heal? Does someone without an intuition or saying like nothing's coming to me, do you think they're able to even heal without any connection to a gut feeling or heart or intuition?
Sure. I mean, I think it's maybe they just need to be a little bit slower, or,
Yeah.
instead of running, go for a walk, or if you're on a walk, take out your headphones, don't be on a phone call. Allow for those thoughts to come in. And people may not realize they are intuitive hits, or, because everyone receives them differently, right? You could hear it, feel it, see it, whatever it is. I just get kind of a feeling. Yeah, when I talk to friends and they'll say, I've been thinking about this, and I say, go with that. That is what
Mhm.
you're supposed to do. Or a friend's like, been thinking about moving to San Diego by the ocean. Okay, the ocean's calling you. Go. You need to go heal by the ocean. So yeah, I think whenever they're getting those pings, it's like, however they're receiving it, yes, move with that. You need to trust that. And once you kind of show your body or whatever it is you believe, that you're listening and you're taking action, I think you'll get more of those hits, or learn to just be more connected with it and trust it. Like I said, I now believe when I moved to Lake Tahoe, I believe I was being called by the trees, and to find out they admitted the exact supplement that I was on was, pretty wild too. So you trust those nudges, absolutely.
And look for them, right? Carl Jung's theory on synchronicity is that it's all around, but you need to look for it, right? If something comes into your life, most people just dismiss it because they're not looking for it or trying to interpret or even see it as anything than just an occurrence. Just that's it, go on with your life.
Yeah,
Whereas if you allow it and you kind of look for it in some ways, if you go, show me a sign, universe, but then you don't look and you push off that and things came at you right away, then you're not going to get that sign. And it's probably not going to provide you with the right path forward. But if you're looking for it truly, I think all those things come to you, right? So you
yeah,
need to be an open vessel. And I
yeah,
think part of what you say in this is you need to let go of those things that do not serve you, right?
yeah.
And do that. What was an instance there? Because I know people sometimes don't get this when I'm like, let go. And it's like, what do you mean let go? Like, can you give an instance for people to kind of, tune into something that happened in your life that you had to let go, other than maybe the job, which seems, something like right in your face or drastic.
I mean, I think, letting go of my house was one.
Mm,
As I had to, say goodbye to friends to move. I think I had to let go of the old me, frankly. And
yes.
that was quite a learning experience too. Just kind of releasing and trusting. One of my favorite books is Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment, but it's all
Yeah. Yeah.
about that.
Great.
It's like, okay, universe, I'm going to trust you,
Mhm.
trust what's coming, and I'm going to take those steps and realize, how it's all helping. But um, yeah, just kind of taking those leaps too.
Yeah.
I, I kind of, the first time I really consciously tried it was in Arizona, now renting. And, I'd always been a homeowner, and or for a long time. And the rental office is like, okay, we need to know with 3 months warning. And I'm like, where am I going to go? And I said, okay, I'm going to really practice being in the feminine. The feminine would be allowing, receiving, trusting. It's all going to work out. The right thing's going to happen in the most easiest way. And this was really foreign to me, because before I was always in the masculine, like, let me do this, let me sell my house and push forward and move somewhere and go, go, go and make it happen. And that's all I had known. So I really sat back and said, okay, I'm going to go with whatever's most easiest and comes to me. And sure enough, a friend's home was available in Tahoe to rent. So it was tough, because I mean, I purposely had to sit back and say, yes, I'll move out in 3 months with, no plan. And okay, I'm going to really just like let it fall into place. And it did. So, and that was also me learning to push the fear away and just like sit with the love and trust. That was a really big test for me too.
If someone's listening, they're on their own healing journey and finding a hard time and resonating with what you're saying, where would you say people start? Would you guide them to read the book, to, get into the course with you? Like what? Because that's always the toughest part of starting, I find,
Yeah.
So what are the paths that you would advise people, especially if they really wanted to work with you?
Yeah, I created, well, so I wrote the book and everyone
Hmm.
wants to find the book, but I'm kind of in the process of my third rewrite because it's like, it means so much to me.
Sure.
I want it to be right. And I want it to be less of a biography and more of helping people.
Hmm.
I just think that will help better. So I'm rewriting that. So everyone's been asking about that. So in the meantime, I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a course that highlights these 12 pillars. So that can help people in the meantime, because a lot of people were reaching out. And my view is I want to make healing affordable. So it's an affordable course. This isn't to sell it, but like this is truly why I did it, because I think a lot of us are becoming the people we needed years ago, right? So that's definitely my path. I was so confused when I got that diagnosis, like,
Hmm.
what's going on? Where do I go? Who do I go to? What's happening in my body? So I'm here now to be that person I needed when that was occurring. So this is very,
Hmm.
clearly emotional about this. So I created the course to help people because it's just like, it might sound like basics, but are you really addressing the layers? And I even created like a free self-assessment on the layer so people can do little yes, no questions like, oh, do I have safety and trust? Do I have self-love? Am I connected with nature? Those sort of, specific questions. But yeah, that's what the course is for. And I'm kind of opening up to one-on-one coaching too. But, and that I think would be really fun because I want to get into, on Zoom, people's homes, like, let's go through your kitchen, let's
Yeah.
organize your closet, all these things help you heal, right? It'll eliminate traffic in your head if you have a clean closet. It all helps. So it does get me excited. So I do want to do that. But yeah, I'm passionate about making it affordable for people to learn how to do this. Part of why I was able to like go to so many specialists and get rid of a root canal and all the things was I had created financial safety, but not everyone has, a big
Mhm.
safety net like that to pay for all these specialists. So that's really why I'm here. I'm passionate about that part too. Um,
Yeah. It's important. It's very important because people crave that kind of hand holding, especially when you're already in a state where you're not sure and someone's been through it before. You have the empathy and experience to be able to provide that sort of environment and the advice that can absolutely help them get there. And you're right. Listen, I always understood this. I work in medicine. Medicine is, especially when it's out of pocket, what we do and these advanced technologies, and you're working with MD, of course, and it's like, it's expensive. I never said to people this is like the cheap route, but I know there are other ways. What we're doing is trying to catalyze on nature. You could go into nature and do it. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer and everything, or maybe it won't. Like this, it's not just that you have to throw money at something. And that's coming from someone that I make my living off of that in a sense of being in that environment of medicine. I still think it's way cheaper than what the conventional realm is. You just
yeah.
don't see that because it's covered by insurance, but the outcome is your value of life. There is no number to that in a sense, right? So, but
And
it's
what
great to have that.
I think it all helps. I think what I love to do all the optimization and heal. Like, I think it all helps. And again, yeah, whatever people are gravitated towards, right? Like, if they're
Yeah.
called for that or called for whatever it is, trust that and go with it. And it's wonderful. Like, I've worked with amazing specialists and I think it all helps. Absolutely.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. It's a holistic approach to it, right? It's a holistic approach of multiple ways and working, with people that can show you different approaches themselves that you just need to resonate with. And
yeah,
so I have to commend what you do there because I do think people are just confused. They don't know where to start, they don't know where to go, and that usually leads to inaction. When you're so, I don't, and then you just keep doing what you always been doing. But to
right.
provide them with the steps there and to do it in a simplistic fashion that isn't breaking the bank is a great way to go about it.
And it's not, it's not a quick fix. This will take
Nope.
time. Like you said, you're learning how to create kind of a healthier lifestyle, a life in balance, a life with connection. It's certainly not a quick fix. It wasn't for me. It's been quite a journey, but I'm so happy to be here now. There's a lot of tears along the way, a lot of shadow work and soul searching and releasing. But getting to the other side is incredible and makes it all worth it.
Yeah. No, healing is a lifelong journey. We're always doing it. That's why people like, are you healed? I never like that because it's like you'll always be healing,
Mhm.
forever. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean you won't be in a healthy state, but we have to see this as our lifelong journey is to be in our most optimized state, enjoy the ride while we're here, and always strive for the healthiest environment we can create for ourselves and for others. So thank you for creating that environment, not just for yourself, but now for others.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful story to hear that. Where can people learn more about you and connect with you?
Oh, thanks. I have a website. It's called Kristen Renee Healing. So I have a book on there. Actually, I have a book on purpose on Amazon, but you can find it through my website. My course is there and some freebies, of course. I have some healing affirmations, which I think really help
Mm,
people kind of get in the mindset and reminding themselves that they're always healing and their body is, looking out for them. But yeah, so Kristen Renee Healing.
great. Do you write your affirmations or say them out loud? Always curious to hear what people go with affirmations.
Lately, I've been saying them out loud.
Okay.
I need to get back into more journal work, but I like listening to them, having them in the background. I'm huge Louise Hayes fan.
Yes.
I don't know, I just really think it helps rewire your thinking and that repetitive, just hearing it helps me. And maybe that's because I heard as a child, so I'm rewiring now. I'm not sure, but that's the way I enjoy it right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% that I think auditory is very important. I've heard this and I'm so surprised there isn't an app yet. So maybe if you'd like to take on this challenge of creating an app for affirmations that in the hours, when you're in deep REM sleep where your subconscious is most open, if you played lightly affirmation, you could learn language, as they say. That way, if you just played like Rosetta Stone, whatever it is at night, you're not even awake, but your
Right.
subconscious, where usually the deepest rooted beliefs about you are, if you play affirmations, I am worthy, I'm healing, I'm whatever it is, someone's voice, it could be your own. Like I always said, why hasn't anyone created an app where you can record it in your own voice and then it just turns on very lightly at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. whenever you're in your deep sleep
Oh,
and just plays for an hour and then you wake up, it's not even on, but you're getting that. Your subconscious will shift. So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe we could partner up and make an app about it.
If they go to bed listening to either healing music, healing sounds,
Yeah.
like HC sounds, or there's like I think it was Dr. Joe Vitale. It's
Mm,
hypnosis kind of sound. So I utilize when I'm going to bed for those, but yeah, it's not hitting at the REM time, but as you're getting sleep.
yeah. No, but I mean, the bottom line here is affirmations are wonderful. Whether you
Um,
write them down, you read them, you say them out loud to
um,
yourself, they're awesome. So it's wonderful. So thank you again, Kristen, for this. For everyone
you.
listening, go to that website, Kristen Renee, that's KRISTEN RENEE healing.com. We'll put all these links to your social media channels and everything in our show notes. And until next time, continue writing your own healing story.